975, and I have Solar 950, Bert Kiesebrink. She's bound for Cannington, Ontario at 950.
Jerry Barber lost his herd of dairy cows this week. 3 years of human struggle ended in the auction yard. Now, Jerry is just a statistic, one of more than 3,000 dairy farmers who will go bust by the end of the year.
All right, and what would you like to say there? And she's very good. She's a 23,000-pound producer, and she's got an udder that handles just like silk.
In this story about milk, not even the cows are really contented. Thousands are being sold off, even slaughtered, because governments and marketing boards, which not so long ago urged farmers to produce more milk, are now telling them to cut back. Curiously, the whole thing could backfire into a milk shortage.
Since cows don't respond too well to market fluctuations, the question of how much they will produce in a given year is decided for them in Ottawa. Provincial marketing boards then allocate quotas to individual farmers. It means that behind every barn there's a bureaucrat. Early in the 1970s, Canadian farmers were not producing enough milk. Thousands were encouraged to go into the dairy business, and by late last year we were seriously overproducing. This tightly managed industry was suddenly out of control. On April 1st this year, quotas were slashed between 15 and 28%. Thus, last year's flow of prosperity became a wave of disaster.
Some of farmers that I know went into debt an additional $100,000, $150,000 in an expansion program, and then all of a sudden this year they got the boom lowered on them, and were left in very extreme circumstances.
So the farmers are left to mend their own fences. 18 months ago, Pat Burt and his wife naively believed that they had a solid future in dairy farming.
What happened?
What happened? We got the milk and we can't ship it.
We got cut back.
Yeah, right.
What's your position now?
Desperate.
Desperate.
For the Burts, the cutback has meant a loss of $8,000, not counting the extra debt they had to absorb. Because of the reduced quotas, this truck that picks up 1,700 pounds today from the Burt farm could have been collecting nearly 3,000 pounds. The computers of the provincial milk marketing boards play a big role in the farmer's destiny. They spew out his quota, and it's the quota that can decide whether he stays afloat or goes broke. They operate like courts of no appeal. Farmers who shipped extra milk were for a while punished by fines of nearly $9 on every 100 pounds over their quota. And yet, W5 asked, if the computers are so all-knowing, why didn't they warn of the fiasco to come?
The information that we have to make the kind of decisions in trying to control an industry like we're in are not quite good enough.
And yet you have a computer here that apparently is only 3 days behind in the collection of all this information.
But that computer doesn't tell you what the farmer's thinking. It doesn't tell you how many cows he's got in his dry lot. It doesn't tell you how many he's milking. It doesn't tell you whether he's feeding some milk to calves. It doesn't tell you what kind of feed he's feeding to his cattle.
But if you're missing that kind of information, then how can you make decisions as to how much he should produce and how much he should be paid?
Well, I think that's exactly the point, and that information has to be better than it's been in the past. We've taken a number of steps this year, and we're continuing to take steps to improve that information.
So there was a clause put in.
Milk marketing boards are often controlled by small groups of wealthy farmers, a kind of agricultural establishment. While no one argues against the principle of managing the supply of milk, the way the system is now working has many challengers. Ontario farmers charge that the marketing board neither consulted with nor listened to them. Many blame the marketing board for giving them too little information too late. The Ontario Milk Marketing Board admitted to a lack of preparedness.
What of these we like and what we don't like?
Just this week, some of the Ontario farmers cried enough. 70 of them got together and hired a lawyer to launch a group action against the provincial government and the marketing board for the losses they say they've incurred. In total, $47 million.
The provincial boards are in open rivalry amongst themselves, especially Ontario and Quebec. Not only that, they've legitimized a kind of economic discrimination against certain farmers. For example, ordinary milk is divided into two categories: fluid, which is what we buy in the stores to drink, and industrial, which is used in the manufacture of cheese and other products. Those who produce the so-called fluid milk get paid more, despite the fact that it may be no better quality than the industrial. Now, more trouble may lie ahead. The quota cutbacks may have been so severe that we'll soon be facing a shortage of milk for manufacturing. Privately, many officials admit this. There are some indications that a shortage is already here. Some factories are unable to obtain sufficient milk to manufacture cheese, even for export. One typical Ontario plant, which needs 650,000 pounds a week for normal production, has been able to get just half that amount. In the winter, the supply of milk normally falls off anyway, and at the rate things are going, this winter could be especially tough. Manufacturers say they will have to lay off workers.
I'm not saying we're facing a shortage situation. You're saying that. Some other people are saying that, but I won't admit that because I still have a big surplus that belongs to the Canadian Dairy Commission that I'm held responsible for, that I'm paying, that the farmers of Canada are paying interest for storing it, for financing it too, and it's costing them millions of dollars to do that. And until someone can prove to me that we're not going to be spending money to store a product and use energy to produce a product that there's no market for, it'll be a long time before I recommend to the Canadian Dairy Commission or say to them, you better increase that quota.
Canada's overproduction of milk gets reduced to powder, stored expensively in warehouses around the country. 390 million pounds of it on September the 1st, the latest inventory date. About 1/3 of that is committed for sale abroad at between 10 and 18 cents a pound, a product that would cost us 75 cents on the supermarket shelf.
Don't
We've
forget,
got 300 million pounds, sir.
Oh, it wouldn't take it long to go. 300 million pounds, you know. We don't have that much that's not sold in Canada. We have about 140 million pounds not sold. And you know, that wouldn't take 10 pounds for every Canadian to buy it, and our surplus would disappear like that overnight. And I saw it being sold the other day that amounted to, in the Dominion store in my town, for 15 cents for a 40-ounce quart of very nutritious drink. You can't even buy mineral water for that. 15 cents for a 40-ounce quart containing every mineral that you need of every age, from child to senior citizen. 15 cents for a 40-ounce quart.
Farmers believe the time has come to fix the blame. Quebec farmers have already shown their disgust. They went to Ottawa last June and stormed Parliament Hill to show their resentment over the quota reductions. They demanded the government help them out, and in their anger, made a personal target of the farmer's friend, Eugene Whalen. But the June violence achieved nothing. There was no admission by any milk board or any government that they should accept the blame and act to correct the situation. In Ontario alone, 417 dairy farmers are in crisis. Some are already bankrupt.
So I guess that's really about it. I know there's thousands more like it, not just us, that's for sure. Many of our neighbors here are in much the same boat, and they're just hanging on just by the skin of their teeth, so to say. But for us, I'm afraid the game's over. And for our boys, well, especially the one, wanted to be a farmer. He went to 4-H and got involved in all those projects, and I guess it's just been for nothing, really, the whole thing.
There's no doubt that people go bankrupt in agriculture and other businesses at all times.
What about those people who are going bankrupt, people who were encouraged into this business through incentives?
I want to make it plain and clear. You didn't find this Minister of Agriculture encouraging very many to go into dairy business, because not in 76, but in 75, I told them to watch production, and they didn't watch production, and a phenomenal thing happened. They even increased production in the winter months, which Never happened before, but we know how they did it. They used high protein, high energy food and pushed those old cows for everything they could, because some of them were told by even their own milk marketing people, produce all the milk you can. And you know, that was completely contrary to what we were telling them in newsletters and what I had said in April of '75.
Are you in favor of a national authority?
If I'm going to get national blame, I'm in favor of a national authority.
And this is what quota cutbacks have forced on many farmers. If you can't sell your milk surplus to the government, and you can't sell it independently because that's illegal, then you might as well feed it to pigs. Whatever happens, it may take up to 2 or 3 years for the industry to recover completely from this year's misunderstanding and mismanagement.